With 4.5 out of 5 stars on Amazon and 4.25 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, I offer you 3 essential lessons from the book The Education of a Value Investor. My Transformative Quest for Wealth, Wisdom, and Enlightenment by Guy Spier. Cheerfully recorded by Cool Cat Investing. Lesson 1. Be mindful of your ancestral gifts. Millions of years of human evolution created a very lousy investor. We did not evolve to make rational decisions to maximize the investing returns, but to survive and pass down our genes. Whoever managed to stay alive and reproduce amidst all the dangers of ancient times became your ancestor and genetic foundation. And there was a lot to be afraid of. Lurking predators, deadly weather, or even your own tribe leaving you to die outside of the safety of their community. Your survived ancestors passed to you very useful to them mechanisms of fight and flight response, community conformity, and an incredibly paranoid brain. Moreover, because of child mortality and food scarcity, evolution naturally selected mostly individuals with a strong response to immediate gratification. Unpredictable famines, diseases, and the absence of sophisticated medical care allowed only those who were quick to respond to a tasty treat to be in your genetic pool, statistically speaking. These ancestral gifts are making you a lousy investor today. Humans often fall victim to unreasonable and unfounded fears to prematurely sell assets at the bottom of the market. Or by seeking instant gratification and rapid asset price appreciation, invest in growing bubbles, only to lose even more when they burst. And all of this gives a false feeling of conformity and safety because the majority of people do so. If you, as an investor, want to achieve better returns, be humble about your ability to stay rational. Consider creating an environment that would minimize the risks of unreasonable behaviors. For example, to minimize unreasonable personal attachments, you may actively refuse to talk in person to the management of the companies you research. They are likely trained to sell their company to potential investors in the best light. Moreover, by establishing personal connections, you are more likely to be inclined to accept their position and invest. Remember that your investing performance depends on how much you can stay impartial, skeptical, and balanced in the evaluation of the business. If you need to form an opinion about the leadership of the company, there are recorded earnings calls and quarterly results presentations freely available online for most companies. Overall, the best CEOs don't try to sell their company, but transparently share everything that might be of interest from an investor perspective. You actually might learn a great deal of useful information from them, but these CEOs are rare. Also, consider relocating to a quiet and stress-free area away from financial centers. The old saying goes, nothing so undermines your financial judgment as the sight of your neighbor getting rich. During financial bubbles you see questionable assets skyrocket in price, making many obscenely rich. Prudent investors are ridiculed with below bubbly market average returns for months and years. The closer it is to the end of the bubble the higher the returns, as nobody is left to sell. The frenzied general public is willing to buy increasingly appreciating assets at any price for the fear of missing out. Eventually, the bubble bursts in a spectacular collapse of the asset prices often below the underlying value. Those who remained cool and didn't buy at the top will end up showing sustainable long-term above-market average returns. Being away from financial centers in a quiet area may help to stay rational amidst the wild times. Additionally, residing far from potential visitors can help retain mental focus and not be distracted by unexpected visitors dropping in. Please be mindful that the abrupt movements of the stock prices wreak havoc in our brains. From dopamine-releasing gratification of price appreciation to twice as painful cortisol-releasing plunge in the quotation, we ride a rollercoaster of brain chemistry. After a full day in this amusement park, we are left exhausted to perform any impartial analysis and think clearly, only to embark on the ride again with a stock market opening bell. To keep your focus, consider avoiding examining stock quotations of companies you own for weeks or months. If selected well, the companies you acquired will still be there even if you don't check on them every hour. However, you may spend one more hour on uninterrupted stock market research, which actually has the potential to increase your long-term performance. It is not a big secret that the most fruitful time to invest is during the stock market collapse, as many companies go on 30, 50, or 70% sale to their intrinsic value. You don't want to be distracted and miss investing in fruitful opportunities. What can you do to avoid losing your relaxed and shrewd mind during these volatile times? Consider owning financially stable companies that might benefit from the competitor's destruction during the economic firestorm. Invest for the long term. Aim to purchase businesses that would do well even if the stock market closes for years and you will not be able to trade stocks. Have enough money out of the stock market and avoid debt or mortgage. This would eliminate situations when you have to be stressed to sell stocks during the downturn to cover your expenses. Consider a diversification of the financial institutions you work with, such as banks or mutual funds management companies. They also can go bust, as it happened to Lehman Brothers in 2008, and you don't want to spend time and money rescuing your investments under the rubble. Ergo Lesson 1. Be mindful of your ancestral gifts. Lesson 2. Create an investing process. Although data varies, there are approximately 5,000 publicly traded companies in the United States and about 50,000 worldwide. It will take about 7 years to spend just 15 minutes analyzing each globally traded company, working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. If you want to have a meaningful chance of finding interesting opportunities, you have to create an investing process. The author suggests spending less time evaluating companies by building mathematical models. Most models have too many assumptions and easily break down in unforeseen situations. A better approach is to look for stocks that have a strong probability to grow in the long run and acquire them at discounts to their intrinsic value, which are obvious without sophisticated mathematical models. The order of data sources you use to evaluate a business should be from the most to least objective, because first impressions disproportionately affect our opinion. Thus, always start with the most objective sources, such as financial statements and corporate filings. The accuracy of these documents is enforced by law. Perhaps this is the most objective information you might find on a company. However, you have to remember that there can be reporting mistakes or misinterpretations, either accidental or intentional. Also remember that some countries have less strict systems of enforcing the accuracy of this data. Second, you may use the company's presentations and earnings conferences. They might contain a sales pitch by the management, however, that's the best source to learn additional information and future outlook not disclosed in the dry financial statements. Third, you may consult with the research performed by other analysts. However, this information can also be less than objective. Most analysts are working for corporations whose interests might differ from yours. In addition to possible salary incentives, analysts might be affected by their own human biases. As a rule of thumb, try to be skeptical about any information you use. Consider creating an investor checklist as a final step right before purchasing stock. Checklists were popularized by Atul Gawande, a surgeon at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston and a professor at Harvard Medical School and the Harvard School of Public Health. In his book published in 2009, he argued that surgeons who didn't use a checklist were missing at least one routine step to prevent potentially deadly infections for a third of patients. A checklist might be a reflection of the most common, easily overlooked mistakes. Yours or other investors. It will not serve as a substitute for full-scale business analysis, but it might catch mundane mistakes or personal biases. Here are some examples the author of the book added to his checklist based on previous mistakes. Personal problems of the top management that might affect long-term performance of the business. Businesses that harm at least one of the stakeholders and do not operate with a win-win mindset. Risks outside of the company's control, such as unreliable unique vendors. Excessive optimism about the future of the company with no evidence of past performance. These are merely examples, as every investor should create a unique checklist tailored specifically for them. Achieving above-average results requires you to bet against a majority and be correct. However, profiting from the crowd's misperceptions doesn't happen the moment you place your bets. You might purchase a stock that will continue to go down in price for a substantial period of time. This can be rather unsettling. Doubts might creep in on whether your judgment was correct. Right before buying a stock, the author of the book suggests to imagine the price tumbling 50% to prepare yourself mentally. Also adopt a rule that if the stock tumbles, don't sell for at least 2 years to prevent any emotional decisions. On the other hand, try to avoid discussing and sharing information on your investments until you sell them. The reason is to avoid situations where the company's fundamentals change and the new intrinsic value does not justify ownership, but you are afraid to sell because of fear of losing your reputation. The fear might manifest as hope that the fundamentals change for the better, forcing you to hold until the price at least matches the one you paid, thus not registering any losses. Periodically you have to take inventory of your stock possessions. The author suggests evaluating your current holdings individually, separated by a sufficiently long period of time. The reason is to reduce potential emotional intensity and blurring. For example, seeing your entire portfolio significantly down with the majority of stocks tumbling might obscure a few individual holdings doing exceptionally well and ready for harvest. Ergo Lesson 2. Create an investing process. By the way, please let me share a word of gratitude to everyone who has chosen to support this channel. If you haven't yet, please consider doing so. The link is in the description below. Now back to the video. Lesson 3. Build a community. Many investors, who learn to be contrarian and actively overcome the urge to be with the crowd, tend to underestimate the importance of building strong social connections. But if you want to invest sustainably over a long period of time, you need these connections, because life is not a zero-sum game. Together, a few individuals can achieve much more than each of them alone. For example, a diverse network of people can suggest new investment opportunities or offer a fresh look at the existing ones. The crucial point in doing this is to connect with people who you trust and who don't have a financial interest in you. You have to discuss investments with full confidentiality and never seek or give advice to buy or to sell, only objective analysis and points of interest about the underlying company. A strong community around you can also help to assess your investing performance by an inner scorecard, thus more likely to achieve your goals. There are so many conversations these days about whether an investor is beating the S&P 500 index, but in reality, investing is a personal adventure. You have to ask yourself why you invest, what your life goals are, and how much risk will not keep you awake at night. Using the stock market as merely a tool turns investing in an adventure with a carefree attitude to the volatility of stock prices. It is immensely liberating to avoid running after the goals others set for you, knowing that you are happy with what you do and you are surrounded by people who respect and love you. But how to build such a community? The author gives a few tips. You have to be selective about who you allow into your life. Broadly speaking, everyone can be placed on a continuum between takers and givers. We all fit somewhere on this axis and can change our position throughout our lives. Taking mindset lives with the question, how can I take from others? Giving mindset asks, how can I give to others? Even though it might be counterintuitive, the author discovered that people closer to a giving mindset achieve much more in life. It turns out givers gravitate to other givers, forming strong communities of mutual support, whereas takers tend to avoid being around other takers and are less welcome among givers. You end up receiving infinitely more in life by giving than by taking, he wrote. How to recognize a person with a giving mindset? Try to selflessly give them something first. You will see whether they approach you for more or try to share something with you too. Thus, your policy might be to actively seek how to help everyone around you and connect deeply only to individuals who are actively seeking to give back. Eventually, you might form a community of givers to allocate most of your time and energy to. The author of the book argues that compounding goodwill by helping others is as important as compounding your capital. And there are many ways you can support others. For example, financial support, introductions to the right people, and book recommendations. The author sums it up with the most memorable quote by Warren Buffett. When you get to my age, you'll really measure your success in life by how many of the people you want to have love you actually do love you. I know many people who have a lot of money, and they get testimonial dinners, and they get hospital wings named after them. But the truth is that nobody in the world loves them. If you get to my age in life and nobody thinks well of you, I don't care how big your bank account is, your life is a disaster. That's the ultimate test of how you have lived your life. The trouble with love is that you can't buy it. You can buy sex. You can buy testimonial dinners. But the only way to get love is to be lovable. It's very irritating if you have a lot of money. You'd like to think you could write a check. I'll buy $1 million worth of love. But it doesn't work that way. The more you give love away, the more you get. Ergo Lesson 3. Build a community. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.